Guys, OG Albina here, bringing you guys another episode of our Draft League study. Today, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite Galarian forms, being Galarian Weezing. Just kind of a reskin of the original Weezing with a new fairy typing, but it really does change it a good amount, opposed to, just standard Weezing in the draft format, in my opinion. But yeah, we'll definitely get into that. But yeah, if you guys are new here, though, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, just so you can get our videos as they go up every day. Wi-Fi content, draft content coming soon once again, and potentially showdown live, stuff like that. So yeah, let's just jump right into Weezing's stats. So as you can see, Galarian Weezing is a poison fairy type, which is a very, 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 very cool typing in my opinion, especially when you pair that with the fact that it does have Levitate as one of its potential abilities, taking away that ground weakness of poison, which is obviously super, super nice, making it weak to opposing steel types and psychic types, and I might be missing something. I think poison makes it resist opposing poison types, which is pretty cool. Stats wise, it's rocking out with 65 HP, 90 attack, 120 defense, and 85 special attack, 70 SPDEF, and 60 speed, which is pretty solid. It's going to be very, very bulky on the FizzDef side. Its HP is a bit lacking, but it's not the worst thing in the world, and its HP plus SPDEF makes it not the most sturdy, SPDEF wall, which isn't very characteristic of previous fairy types that we've had in the past. Usually we have mons like Sylveon, Florges, that are going to be more tailored to being more SPDEF bulking and stuff like that, where Weezing is actually probably our only second fairy type that's more tailored towards being a FizzDef wall. The only other one being Granbull, which isn't the most phenomenal Pokemon in the world. It's definitely a great low tier fairy, but not in the game, and it's not anything insane. So I think it's really cool that we got a FizzDef fairy. Abilities wise, I already kind of talked about one of them. Get access to Levitate, which is really cool, so it can avoid those ground type hits, taking away its poison weakness. It also gets access to neutralizing gas, which is a really cool ability. It's essentially Mold Breaker, but a little bit better. It doesn't just take away opponents' abilities when you're attacking them. Anything on the field when you're out, their abilities are gone. So your Levitate Rotom Wash isn't levitating anymore. Your Magic Guard Clefable does not have a Magic Guard anymore. So if you toxic that thing with your Weezing, you will be able to get some poison chip on and off and stuff like that, which is really cool. Same thing with Unaware. Abilities like that is essentially what that's going to be useful for, which is pretty cool in niche matchups. I don't think it's going to be as crazy as some people think it's going to be. I really think Neutralizing Gas is probably the least useful out of the three abilities that this thing gets, depending on how you draft around Weezing or how the team Weezing is on performs. I wouldn't say you necessarily draft around Weezing. It's kind of more so a support one, but we'll get into that. But yeah, it's still a very solid ability nonetheless. It has three really, really good abilities. The third one is actually Misty Surge, which is really, really cool. The only other previous Misty Surge user was going to be Tapu Fini, which is obviously not in the game this time around. So it's cool that we have him on that auto sets the Misty Terrain for stuff like Hawlucha and other Unburdened mons can potentially take advantage of that. It's good just to help, neuter dragon types and stuff like that against this mon and other mons that might be in the back, so you can take reduced damage from those dragon hits and stuff like that. So Misty Surge can be also very nice in these matchups, but again, I really do think Levitate is what you're going to run a majority of the time. But again, this is the draft format, so that's completely dependent on matchup. Some weeks you might even run Neutralizing Gas or Misty Surge just to have a grounded poison type so that you can soak up those toxic spikes, which is absolutely invaluable. I think that makes this mon a lot better. Not just that it has more options other than Levitate, it's the fact that it can, be a grounded poison if you need it to be. Weezing, before couldn't do that. It only had Levitate, if I remember correctly. It could have had Stench, but I don't remember exactly if it did have it in Gen 6. So, in Gen 7. So, this gen for sure, though, you will be able to soak up toxic spikes with your Weezing, which is obviously really, really nice, supporting the rest of your team in the back and stuff like that. Next, let's get into some moves, and this thing has a pretty insane move pool. Offensively, it has pretty much the same standard stuff that Weezing had before, with some fairy coverage tacked on top of there. But once we get into the support moves, you'll definitely see what I'm talking about, and the fact that this thing can really support a team really well and do a lot of different things for a team in matchup. But yeah, we're going to start off with Stabs right here. It has access to Sludge Wave and Bomb, so Wave is better for, obviously, your power purposes. I believe it has a little bit higher of a base power, while Sludge Bomb has about a 30% chance to poison. So depending on if you want to, try and snag that poison, or if you want to get that little bit of extra damage off, it's totally going to be dependent on matchup and calcs and stuff like that. So I definitely think you should look into that when you're building your team, but it's obviously an option for both. And then same thing with the fairy moves. It has a new move called Strange Stream, which I believe is 90 base power, 95 accurate, if I remember correctly. Let's double check that before I say something, and I'm like, oh wait. Strange Stream. Yeah, so 90 base power, 95% accurate. It has a secondary effect of giving you a 20% chance to confuse the target, which is pretty cool. Nothing crazy, but it's mostly going to be used, in my opinion, just for that extra boost in power by 10. Because Dazzling Gleam is base 80, but it is also 100% accurate. So it's kind of a matter of if you need that extra push of damage on this thing, or if you just want to hit them with the Dazzling Gleam and do, a decent amount of damage like that. Because it's not the craziest jump. It's not like anything insane, but it is nice, depending on some calcs and some matchups like that. Some things you might need to hit hard and hit for a 2-hit KO. Maybe you'll need to run Strange Stream or Sludge Wave over Sludge Bomb and Dazzling Gleam. So those are going to be the main stabs that this thing's going to run, obviously. Next up, we have some coverage with Flamethrower and Fire Blast. Those two kind of fit the same pool as Sludge Bomb and Wave. Flamethrower, obviously 100% accurate, but Fire Blast hits very, very hard. I think this is going to be a very important move on Weezing because your stabs are walled by steel types. So that gives you a way to hit steel types. And I think that's amazing that you have a reliable way. Being that hidden power is gone, having a way to hit those things with super effective coverage is obviously super nice. So they can't just come in and sit in front of you for free and set up a sub or, just wreak havoc on your team. So that's obviously really nice. They at least have to respect the Flamethrower and Fire Blast possibility. And then other coverage moves, doesn't get anything super crazy. It gets like Thunder, Thunderbolt and Thunder. I didn't really think it was worth putting Thunder on there. There wouldn't be too many times where you're going to run Thunder. But Thunderbolt, and then it also gets like Shadow Ball / Dark Pulse. Almost put Dark Pulse on there, but those are going to be mostly to hit those psychic types that would hit you super effectively. Just having a coverage move for those potentially not going to be the most useful thing in the world. You're probably not going to run it very often, but it is definitely an option. So I figured we should probably put it on here. Next up, we're going to kind of get into some support moves. First off, we're going to start off with more so the status side of thing, which is really cool. This thing gets Toxic and Toxic Spikes, which is really, really good. It's a T-Spike setter. It can also just, raw outright Toxic things. And that's pretty obvious being that this thing's a poison type. But I only say this because in Generation 8, not as many mons get Toxic. In the previous generations, it was a TM and it was much more widely distributed. In this game, not so much, to be honest. There isn't as many mons that get it, and having a mon that can reliably throw off 100% accurate Toxics, because it is a poison type, is going to be really, 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 really cool. And if you're playing against an opponent without a grounded poison type, Toxic Spikes are definitely always the move. It makes it really, really hard for your opponent to formulate a game plan and really get settled in their game and try and win from there. If you don't have a way of getting rid of Toxic Spikes, or you don't have a grounded poison or something like that, it makes the game incredibly hard for you to win. So I think it's a really good addition to its moveset. It also has access to Will-O-Wisp, just like regular Weezing, which is really cool for physical threats that you can burn potentially. And get a big chunk of, get some chip off on over time, mostly just to have that physical attack, which is really, really good, making this thing a really good physical wall and being able to stop those mons. And it also has Pain Split for semi-reliable recovery. I don't want to say reliable because it definitely isn't, but it's a way to recover your HP without resting, which is pretty cool. And it also can, potentially damage your opponent a little bit. So Pain Split sets are obviously going to be running around a little bit, depending on if you need your Weezing healthy for later, if you go up against, a really fat HP mon. And this thing doesn't have the highest HP, so you'll be able to take advantage of Pain Split pretty well with this mon right here. Next up, we're going to go into some more support moves. First off, being Taunt. I think Taunt's really cool, actually. Despite this one being pretty slow, it can outspeed some Pokeballs, especially with a little bit of speed investment. So you can Taunt them, potentially stop them from defogging away your Toxic Spikes. You can taunt them from recovering. You can stop them from potentially, setting up a Calm Mind or, something like that, like a bulky Sword Stance Mon can't set up in front of this thing. If you have Taunt on it and stuff like that. So I think Taunt's actually a really, really good addition to this thing's moveset. It also has access to Destiny Bond and Memento, two moves that are going to obviously be more so used when this thing's going down. Destiny Bond's really cool to catch something off guard that might be able to knock you out. We're going to go for a Destiny Bond, and then the next turn they're not going to be able to knock you out. Or if it's like something really slow for some reason, they got speed, you can Destiny Bond, take it down with you, which is obviously really good. Memento is the big one, though. I really like Memento on this thing, helping facilitate your other set of monsters to sweep. Especially with say you draft like a Hawlucha with and you use this thing for Misty Terrain, you go in, you set the terrain, you're annoying for a minute, then you Memento, go into your Lucha, get your boost and your speed, and I think it's Spadef that you get with Misty Terrain. With the Misty Seed, I could be completely wrong, could be defense, but regardless, you're going to get that boost. Then your opponent's going to be at -2/-2, and you're going to get up a free Sword Stance. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. So at that point, your Lucha can potentially do really, really well. And I don't think any of the other Tapus had a way of doing that. So I think that's really, really big for this thing. So if you can draft Weezing plus Lucha, you're in a really, really good spot, to be honest. And then it also has access to defog. I think that's really big. Defog isn't as widely distributed this gen either as it was in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Stuff like the Rotoms don't have it right now. You know, a bunch of mons I got it via Move Tutor don't have it, but Weezing definitely does, so it could be a pretty reliable defogger, getting off at least 1 or 2 against, you know, potential hazard stack builds and stuff like that. Because I do think hazard stack is going to be pretty solid this gen with the lesson distribution and all that stuff. So that's obviously super good for Weezing. And then lastly, we kind of have some other moves right here. Aromatherapy is really good, which can form as a, you know, can be a cleric for your team, which is obviously really cool. Being able to, you know, remove status from maybe Weezing and other mons potentially in the back. Only status you really have to worry about being on Weezing is maybe potentially being burned, just because it'll offset your Black Sludge or something like that, or just slowly chip you down. You obviously can't be poisoned unless you're facing a Salazzle, but it's a really good team support at the very least. It also has Haze and Clear Smog to throw away your opponent's stat boost. It's cool that it has Haze and Clear Smog, though, because of the fact that you're going against a mon that you know, isn't affected by Clear Smog, like setting up like a Steel type or something like that, or you're going up against a mon that's behind a sub. If you're trying to, you know, Clear Smog away their boost and they're behind the sub, you're obviously not going to be able to, especially if you don't break the sub. That's really bad. So Haze is really good in that respect, but Clear Smog is a stab attack that can actually reset the thing. So it kind of just depends on matchup, the mon that you're trying to remove the stab boost from and stuff like that. But having both options is really nice. And then it has access to Explosion, and I think that's pretty slept on because of the fact that Weezing's physical attack is actually better than its special attack. It just has garbage physical coverage. It has access to Play Rough and like Gyro Ball and some cool stuff like that. But 90% of the time you're going to be using this thing as a special attacker, just because it has much better coverage, especially on the poison side of things. I don't think it has a physical poison stab, which is really big. But Explosion could be really cool just to go boom and, you know, get a big chunk off on something, get a free switch into something else. I think most of the time you're going to be using Memento, but Explosion could be cool in some niche matchups. And it was kind of like the last move that we tacked on here because I didn't want to just have 3 moves sitting on the screen. And then, you know, and like that. So I figured, yeah, why not? We'll throw an Explosion or something like that. Yeah, with that being said, we talked about a lot of the really relevant moves. I might have missed a few, but we talked about a lot of the really relevant moves on this thing. And as you can see, it is very much so tailored to being a support mon. It is very solid in that aspect. It has a lot of moves that can really help it out in that. And you're going to see that with these sets. These sets, I kind of want to say, take these with a grain of salt because of the fact that it has so many crazy support moves like Aromatherapy, Haze, Clear Smog, you know. It has access to... oh no, I clicked the wrong button. I'm clicking the wrong buttons, I apologize. But it has access to... oh, there we go. It has access to like Taunt and Destiny Bomb, Memento, all these crazy moves that it can really use. It doesn't really matter what 4 moves you use in a lot of these sets. It's going to be more so... this one's going to be bulky. It's going to be annoying. It's going to have 2 stab moves, potentially. It's going to have a stab plus Flamethrower. And it's going to be annoying for your opponent. It's going to facilitate you winning with other mons. This isn't a mon that you're going to just come in and wall break with. This isn't a mon you're going to just come in and, you know, just win the game with or anything like that. It's just not the kind of mon it is. However, it is phenomenal support-wise, and I think that's something you should definitely take advantage with this guy. So yeah, first set we have right here, we have a Black Sludge set. Spadef, just because of the fact that you are very bulky on your festive side, and we are also carrying Will-O-Wisp on this set with Sludge Wave, Stream / Flamethrower, Defog, and Will-O-Wisp. This is going to serve as, like, you know, potentially a bulky defogger. Going to burn some physical threats to where you're not as scared of them, and you do have a very bulky Fizdef set, so I figured you might want to make this a little bit more Spadef. But again, this is the draft format, so you're going to obviously EV to whatever you really need this thing to check. If you need it to check a Haxorus, then you're going to EV to have it check a Haxorus or something like that. I guess not the best analogy because I think it's Mold Breaker, and I can just click Earthquake on you regardless. But you know, you get my point. It's gonna be you're gonna tailor this thing to, you know, beat whatever you can. But I figure this is a really solid mod. It has Sludge Wave, then plus Strange Stream, Dazzling Gleam / Flamethrower, Fire Blast. You know, you could throw any one of those moves on there and do well. I threw Flamethrower on there simply just because it's not fun being walled by Steel types other than being able to burn them. They can still come in on you pretty safely, and if they come in on a turn where you didn't Will-O-Wisp, they're getting a free turn. So that's obviously not optimal if you can avoid it at the you know, at all and stuff like that. Next up, we have a Fizdef set right here with Sludge Wave, Flamethrower, Toxic Spikes, Pain Split / Taunt. This is a pretty cool one to you know, kind of get us some T-Spikes, wear down your opponent's team, Pain Split up some health potentially, taunt some defoggers or some defoggers that might, you know, be a little bit slower than you if you can, you know, get up that you know, if you can outspeed them with a little bit of investment and stuff like that. Obviously, again, you're going to invest a little bit for those slower mons and those slower bulkier walls if you're running taunt. But Sludge Wave Flamethrower is going to hit a lot of things, and being able to toxic spikes and wear down things is obviously going to be super, super dope. So this thing can really be annoying in that sense. I didn't go with much Spadef here, just simply because you're not carrying Will-O-Wisp, and this thing is just much more tailored to being a physical wall. Next up, yet another Spadef set with Sludge Wave, Flamethrower, Toxic, and Haze. This is a really good anti-setup on bulky mons that want to potentially, set up all over you. This is a really good, actually, now that I think about it. If you want to go strange, neutralizing gas over this, over Levitate, and go Toxic Haze, you'll be able to beat Magikarp mons I want to set up on you, like Clefable. You might not be able to beat a Reuniclus because it can kind of just click Psychic on you, but this is a really good Clefable check if you're swapping out the Levitate for the neutralizing gas, because you'll be able to Toxic it, you'll be able to Haze it anytime that it wants to go for a boost, and then Sludge Wave plus Flamethrower is going to be solid coverage as well, which is really, really cool. So I think this is a good anti-setup mon as well, like I said, with the Haze and the Clear Smog. I just personally think Haze is a little bit better, just so you're not sub-fodder. Then next up we have a more gimmicky set. I wanted to kind of throw in, some fun stuff that this thing can maybe do in the league setting that it definitely won't really be able to do in, just a standard Smoke on OU type of, environment and stuff like that. So we have a choice spec set here with the Misty Surge, Sludge Wave, Strange Stream, Fire Blast, and then Memento / Destiny Bond. I didn't really think it needed other coverage like Thunderbolt or Shadow Ball over this, because Sludge Wave, Strange Stream, and Fire Blast is actually going to hit a lot of things really, really hard, especially with the modest nature and the choice specs on top of it. Once you lock into a move, you're going to be doing some damage regardless. I don't really ever see you locking into Thunderbolt or Shadow Ball, but again, that could totally change depending on matchup. There's something you need to hit super effectively. And then Memento and D-Bond are really nice, especially Memento. Again, this is a really good pair, mon to pair with Hawlucha or something like that. Something you need to set up in the back, something that can take advantage of some Misty Surge. Even Hitmonlee could be cool too. And lastly, another more gimmicky set is going to be Assault Vest Weezing. We have Levitate, and then we're Max Bold, Sludge Wave, Strange Stream, Fire Blast, and T-Bolt. This time we did throw on T-Bolt just because of the fact we do need 4 attacking moves. You could also throw on Clear Smog on top of that, some stuff like that, which would obviously be pretty solid. But this mon doesn't have the best Spadef. It is very bulky Fist F-wise, so I figured you could have the best of both worlds with this if you want to kind of drop the utility role and just kind of go for all coverage and, be just a really bulky, annoying pivot. If you have some good wish support in the back with this, I think this set could be really cool. Like a nice little Vaporeon or something like that could be really cool with this thing. Keeping it healthy, making it so it's really, really annoying. Sludge Wave, Strange Stream, and Fire Blast obviously going to hit a lot of mons very, very hard. I think it's actually pretty slept on how hard they'll hit them. But yeah, those are going to be like the 5 sets I came up with myself. Again, especially with the first 3, you can kind of intermix all of its utility moves that we talked about earlier and throughout its moveset. They can work in most matchups depending on who you're playing, what mons you're going up against. I really do think this mon's going to be more tailored towards that support role. But as for mons, I think they can do well with this. Again, I already mentioned Hawlucha is obviously a great, great partner just because of the Misty Surge plus getting its Unburden, which also subsequently makes Hitmonlee a very good, pair with this mon to, also take advantage of that with a little bit more of a budget pick and stuff like that, which is obviously super, super dope. This mon also, if you have Misty Surge, other mons that don't appreciate getting status, it's really good. Mons that don't appreciate taking ground type moves, you have this thing to pivot in and, take Earthquakes and stuff like that. This mon can honestly fit on a lot of teams. Is kind of what I'm trying to get into. It really does fit that support role well, and it really does, serve that fairy type role well as well. It's just kind of a matter of what your team needs that week and stuff like that. And Weezing can kind of mold itself to help you out. Another thing I really think that Weezing appreciates, so if you can grab something like a Vaporeon, like a Wish Passer that might not be another fairy type, I really do think that it does appreciate that as well. Keeping it healthy because it doesn't have the most reliable form of recovery, but it is going to be really great nonetheless. But yeah,